Hi guys, and welcome to the second part of the work that we're going to be doing on styling our webpage Samoa, Heart of the Pacific. Now you might recall that this is a view of the webpage that we're trying to create at the moment. Just trying to style the home page here, and this is basically where we got up to. Okay, so this is where your work should be up to at the moment. So as you can see here, we've done quite a bit of work. We've got the background color working okay. We've got the two columns set up. One of the issues that we need to deal with for a start is this information down here. Okay, this home information, this material here. Just Control Z that. Didn't want to do that. Change. Okay, this should be down the bottom of the page. Okay, I'm just going to close that and reopen it. Okay, so we need to move that down the bottom. The font sizes at the moment are a little large for my liking, and the headings don't really stand out properly. The sizes of them are a little bit all skew with at the moment. So I want this to be a major heading, and I want these to be subheadings. There's Samoan customs and location of Samoa. The right column obviously needs a lot of work. We need to make that into something that has a smaller font size. I want some rounded borders around each of these sections here, and I want to have a different background color as I mentioned. So let's get started. Right, for a start, I'm going to move this material here, home information, history, etc., down the bottom of the page, and I think we need to put the footer image in at the same time. So I'm going to go to code view. Let's just check the bottom part here. Here's our footer information. Now this is basically in the right place in our code. We do also have a class, a div here with a class of clearfloat, which is exactly what I want. And if you don't have that, you need to add that to your code. But if I check the CSS, there is no CSS rule for that class called clearfloat. So let's add one in. Now remember, when you're adding a class, start with a full stop. And here I think we're just going to be having one rule, which is to clear both. So let's save that, go back to live view, and F5 is a way that you can refresh the screen in live view for it to basically work properly. Now if I look here, yes, now the footer information is at the bottom of the page. It has cleared our two floated our floated content, which is this left hand side here and also this right hand side. The background image for the footer, let's put that in. So going back to code view again, if I look at my CSS, I don't really have any rule for the footer. So let's add that in. Now footer is a tag, therefore no full stop or anything else in front of that. Now what the background image, okay, so background image is the selector, and let's go browse to this images, and it's the footer BG. I want that relative to the site root. Yeah, just select that. Okay now, and let's put this URL in here at the moment. Not sure if I exactly want it that way. I was hoping more for a source, so let's delete that. Okay, it's not working the way I want it to at the moment. Right guys, just looking at things there again, just a reminder, yes, this is actually correct here. Because this is a background image, we need to insert that with a URL, which is basically like a path, well, is a path to our image here. But you do this if it's a background image. So let's save that. Let's go back to live view, F5 to refresh. And here's our background image here. Okay, now later on we need to muck around with this text here so it can go along here. And obviously we'll change the size, the font, and get that going horizontally, but we'll do that a bit later. Okay, let's go back up the top here. Now, I think it's time to have a look at this right-hand column here. So let's go back to code view here again. This is a section called aside, and we have 1, 2, 3 divs inside there, each with a class of newsbox. So let's start to style that up. Okay, so let's go back up the top here. I think here, good place for this. So I'm going to target the aside section, and I want to target the news, each class inside there with that class of news box. I want a bit of room at the top of each of these news boxes. I want to basically visually separate each news box from the one below it. So putting some margin at the top will allow that to happen. I want a bit of room inside the border of each of these news boxes. So I'm going to use 2% padding for that. Now for the border, okay, I want it 2 pixels. I'm going to make it solid. And I'm going to use a color here. Now this code, once again, I've got previously, but this should be a sort of suitable color. The 1.00 at the end is the amount of transparency, and this is the amount of red, green, and blue that makes up that color. And I need to spell that right. Okay, check for things like semicolons and spelling, you should go. Okay, the border radius, I want some rounded borders on each of these news boxes, and I'm going to choose 10 pixels for that. And the background color, just save a little bit of typing time. And this code here, I'm going to be putting in hexadecimal. And as you can imagine, I did muck around earlier trying to get something that I thought would be suitable, okay, for the border color and the background color. I didn't sort of just make these up on the spot. Right, save that, go live view, we'll go to your browser view. Let's refresh this. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so we've got our rounded borders here. We've got a good background color, at least I like it. We've got a different color for the border, so it sort of stands out. So that's looking all very good. The only thing I don't like is that the size of this font too big. So let's see about trying to change that. Okay, so perhaps I'll put this rule above this one. Not that that matters too much, but it is going to affect the whole aside region. In fact, we have a rule for that already. What am I doing? The only thing we need to do is to add something about font size into this here. Now for font size, we could use percentages or another unit called REM. Just refer you to this page on the OneNote where I've put some information about different CSS units for lengths. And the one I'm going to use here is a thing called REM, or REM units. Okay, and this might take a little bit of experimentation, so I'm going to use 0.8 for a moment. And let's just check that, refresh that. Okay, and that didn't have the effect I was hoping it would. And the reason is I didn't put any units. What a dipstick. Okay, so let's try that again. F5 to refresh. Okay, that's not looking too bad. You may think that's a little too small. If so, we can just bump that up just a little. Yeah, that's perhaps a little better. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that for now. Okay, and while we're at it, let's have a look at the wrapper section to see if we want to change the font size there at all. In fact, the content section. I'm just checking over on another one that I've already done here. Yeah, I think it's the wrapper that we're going to use. Let's just double check that, one moment. Alright guys, yes, it's the content I'm going to target here. Now I could also target the wrapper, but made the choice that since the main content of our page is inside the section with the class of content, I'm going to choose to target this rather than the wrapper. So let's target content and let's have a go at trying to just change the font size here to something which is suitable for the main text of this. Now I'm going to once again use this REM unit. The advantage of the REM unit is that if you later on decide to set your page up to dynamically resize, perhaps as you make your page smaller, then you can set up rules that would basically just change the font size of the body, and then the REM unit takes its size relative to the font size of the body. So for example, if we made our page smaller and we put the font size down from 100 say to 90%, then we wouldn't need to muck around with the font sizes of these other sections here, because they'd be taking their font size relative to the body, so they would also automatically dynamically resize as well. Okay, so let's have a look at this font, 0.9 for the font size of the content region. Let's resize that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Anything is, I think these two font sizes are too similar now, so I'm actually going to go back and change this back 2.8 as I had before. And this is something that you can decide on for yourself when you come to do your own web pages. You know, the balance of your font sizes, but I want this contrast here between these little news boxes here and the main text. Okay, so that's while we're mucking around with font sizes, let's have a go at targeting the H1. I was typing in there, wasn't it? And the font size for this, I'm going to set to 1.5 REM. Again, let's have a look at that. Okay, that's much better. The H2 we might also target. make sure there's no space between the unit and the amount here, otherwise it won't work. Okay, it's not looking too bad. Yep. Alright, so having set that up, I think that'll do for this particular part. Okay, so we've got the footer image in place, we've got the footer in the right place, we've got our right hand column looking pretty good, and in our next section we'll have a go at trying to get these texts moving up next to the images. Perhaps move the fire dancer here on the right rather than the left, or maybe we'll do that with the map, we'll see. And then we also perhaps need to talk a little bit about the navigation up here. We need a bit of contrast here, and also I don't think that this is fully working at the moment. And also we have this annoying little gap here between the image and the start of the nav section. So we'll have to have a look and see if we can do something about that. Right, so I'll catch you there, guys.